So just the other day, I came across this video titled, "What League of Legends Does to Your Brain. It's Not What You Think." It was only a day old, but it already had like 52,000 views at the time. And the thumbnail didn't look professional or anything, so I was quite intrigued by what this homemade YouTuber, just like me, had cooked up, so I gave it a watch. And boy, it was an interesting watch for sure. The YouTuber, who goes by Dakkych, has been active for almost a year and has had quite a few bangers already, unlike me, who's peaked at 5,000 views. And I do remember his videos getting recommended to me some time ago. The crux of this video is how League of Legends is basically a great game that has some seriously touted cognitive benefits for its players. Now, while I do agree with some of the stuff that he says, he makes some gross oversimplifications, as well as failing to use decent fucking logic in order to illustrate some of his points, leading to somewhat lackluster and half-baked argumentation to support his thesis. So in this react/roast video, the second one of my channel, I'm going to point out the flaws in his reasoning and why it's important for not only content creators, but also for content consumers to exercise common sense and sound logic when it comes to creating or interacting with content. If you guys are new here, my name is Raybees and I help people develop a healthy relationship with video games. When it comes to helping people alleviate their addictive tendencies, my content is what I wish I would have seen when I first started out in gaming. If you're interested in learning more about gaming addiction or even solving your own addiction problems, join my Discord and do the usual YouTube stuff and like and subscribe. So let's get right into it. I'll play you the first excerpt.
Before we get into how playing League of Legends affects our brain, first we must understand our brain on a super basic level. Our brain is highly organized structure of these cells called neurons. Neurons are connected to each other via synapses, and they are amazing at doing one very important thing. They can receive the impulse and they can generate the impulse. So, on a cellular level, our brains are very simple, but when you put 86 billion of those suckers together, they form super complex organ that is our brain. There are two types of neurons, sensory and motor neurons. Sensory neurons carry information from outside world to our brain, and motor neurons carry signals from our brain to executive organs.
So this is basically the generic makeup of how neurotransmission works in the brain. Your brain absorbs stimuli through sensory neurons, which the brain processes and releases reactive signals through motor neurons. What's funny to me is that he prefaces this Wikipedia level summary of neurosynaptic connections by showing his physical therapy degree as well as some of his other certifications. You don't need a degree and certifications to look up what this shit means online. Anyone with a few functioning brain cells, neurons if you will, could have put this shit together in like 20 minutes. But anyway.
Our brain can structurally and functionally change itself in response to sensory input. This ability is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the reason why playing League of Legends can improve your cognitive functions like attention, perception, reaction time, executive functions, problem solving, and decision making.
Now let's stop right here and take a very good look at this. Dakkych just said that playing League facilitates neuroplasticity in these 5 following functions, but this is a huge oversight. If he actually sat down and thought critically instead of reading off some fucking Psychology Today article, he had realized that 2 of these, attention and executive functions, are definitely not facilitated by League of Legends. Claiming they're actually increased by League of Legends is a complete farce, and I'm gonna prove it to you right now. First off, let's take attention. Now, it's hilarious that anyone would claim playing League or any other source of high stim media increases your fucking attention, especially with someone of his level of certification, am I right? If anything, League does the fucking opposite. Your attention worsens as a result of engaging in fantastically overstimulating content that you can't possibly find a replica for in real life. Since it's so fast-paced and mechanically challenging, but ultimately useless, like you're playing a fucking video game. People have trouble concentrating on the actual useful endeavors in real life because they're nowhere near as stimulatory, nor have the same instant feedback loop that Daddy Riot employs to keep motherfuckers addicted for decades. How many times do I have to beat in y'all heads that video games, especially League of Legends, is debilitating your cognitive function because of its infinitely complex nature? You can waste so much of your fucking free time not even playing but just thinking about this shit. If anything, it's an invasive catalyst into your mind space that tempts you to spend mental faculties thinking about it and all of its permutations rather than actually doing something useful with your fucking life. You don't believe me? Let's do an exercise right now. Think about your favorite League obsession. Whether it's mastering a combo on a champion, figuring out a Baron play that went wrong a few days ago, or that sick outplay that you pulled while you were in call with that thick e-girl. Now think about your next school assignment. Think about having to take your parents out to the doctor and needing a checkup for yourself too. Think about cleaning your dusty ass room. It feels like a come down, doesn't it? Your attention was hyper-focused on a worthless high-stim activity, but now that you have to think about actually useful shit, your brain can't treat it with the same amount of zeal. And that's why this argument is fucked. League doesn't help your attention, it actively makes it much worse. I would have loved to hear more of what he has to say about these processes, but of course he doesn't go into detail and just trains on spewing some other half-baked bullshit. The second one I want to discuss is executive function. So for those who don't fully understand what executive function is, because it's kind of a nebulous term, don't worry, I'm qualified enough to teach you on complex neuroscientific terms. Executive function is a set of mental processes that help people plan, solve problems, and control impulses. Now that you guys have benefited off my superior intelligence, let's try to understand how playing League of Legends help people control impulses. Yeah, I can't understand it either. Almost like video games are designed to hijack your executive functions with a barrage of simulation and seduce you into playing more than you're comfortable with. Or more than you actually should. That's what I'm saying with this half-based ass logic. Anyone who sits down and thinks a little bit about the video that they're creating will definitely come to odds with the fact that these two aspects of cognitive function are not being enfranchised by the game. They're actively being subverted in order to proliferate the prevalence of that stimulation inside your own head, so you become addicted to that fucking shit instead of exercising control like a functioning fucking adult. Anyway, let's keep going. This is only minute 3 of an 11-minute video. For his next trick, Dakkych explains how League of Legends facilitates positive synaptic connections that can, wait for it, make you better at life. To illustrate his point, he pulls up the simple fact of catching waves undeterred as syndrome. He explains that even though this all happens in a matter of a few seconds, there are a shit ton of complex cognitive processes that are running through his head that make even the simple act of CSing extremely difficult. Before I get into why he might have overcooked this part, I'll let him explain his reasoning.
Completing this kind of tasks forces your brain to form new synaptic connections and strengthens already existing ones. You are basically reinforcing your neuroplasticity by completing tasks like farming minions and so much more. And that is the reason why I love League of Legends. I don't see it as just a game. I see it as a tool to improve yourself and directly affect your brain in a way that almost no other game can. League of Legends is astonishing both as a game and as a tool to better yourself in many different ways.
Now, while I also love League of Legends, and I also agree it teaches you some extremely useful shit that will definitely positively change the way you perceive this world, you guys have to understand that it's mostly psychological. What I love about League, and you can always go back into my climbing content if you think I'm bullshitting this by the way, is that it's the closest thing you can get to trying your absolute hardest and still failing spectacularly, just like in real life, especially for a non-talented gamer like me. I had to learn effective systems of learning and concept recall in order to climb consistently within this game, and if I slack off for even a couple of days, I have to repeat the whole damn fucking process again. Now, while whether that's a conducive use of people's time is a different video altogether, but I'm not denying League and other video games have their positive roles in your life as well. That's why you've never heard me say that you should never play video games permanently. But what I do deny is that the notion that the neuroplasticity facilitated by League of Legends is actually beneficial for your life. This is because most of the bullshit you learn in League of Legends is domain specific, meaning that it doesn't really translate into other areas of your life. My running joke on this channel is always, how does learning to CS effectively help you with talking to women? It doesn't. How does clicking away like a damn monkey for hours help you become muscular and respectable? Not only does it do jack shit for that, it actively makes you worse at the gym because your fingers are all fucked up from carpal tunnel and your grip strength just goes out the fucking window. Even if I were to take his example, me learning a new champion doesn't even translate that well into me learning a useful skill in real life. If I'm being generous, sure, there are some synaptic connections that my brain makes in developing concrete systems for learning, and I might be able to use that whether learning a new champion or learning a new language of code or something. However, learning a League champ isn't the same as learning fucking code. Instead of coping that League is helping me get better at doing X, Y, and Z, why not just do X, Y, and Z from the start and form useful synaptic connections doing the thing instead of coping that League is helping me accomplish this? This actually reminds me of what I used to preach on the channel when I used to say League was making me better at life. But when I said that, like I said, I always prefaced it on the psychological side of learning to be rejected and still having to pick yourself back up by the bootstraps and keep trudging forward. Never claim my brain was actually getting better playing this dumb fuck ass game. And as far as this argument about the complex subtasks of CSing, I'm surprised anyone as smart as him would fail to take heuristics into account. Now, heuristics are a daily part of human life because they help us take mental shortcuts that will otherwise overwhelm your brain if you had to learn shit again and again and again from day one. He's obviously not a first-time player and has developed some heuristical competence when it comes to executing basic tasks in League. While all of what he said is definitely hard for a new player, it certainly isn't hard for a tenured one. The notion that he's still struggling very very hard to CS. Even against someone who's equal to him in terms of laning pressure is just false, guys. His brain has already built up domain-specific neurosynaptic connections when it comes to CSing, meaning that even against someone who's equal to him in lane, he'll have a higher baseline for CSing as opposed to a noob who can't figure out his head from his ass. So that argument just falls flat on his face altogether. After this, Dakkych goes into citing some studies about why his reasoning is logically sound and is worth listening to, because apparently it's just better to spew some dumb fuck out of your mouth and cite studies instead of actually carefully formulating your points so they don't run counter to common fucking sense. Most of the citations he uses are anywhere from good to downright stupid, like the IQ study, which he even admits isn't all that credible. Apparently there was an IQ study in early October of this year that claimed that League of Legends players had the highest IQ of all gamers with an IQ of 120. 120. Have you met League of Legends players? Is this your first fucking time playing the game, bro? There was one particular citation that completely threw me over the edge and was the entire reason I was even compelled to make this fucking video in the first place. So apparently 6 years ago, some of these motherfuckers from Wired made a video trying to analyze how video games affect your brain. They recruited Acadian back when he was still relevant and still playing for TSM, I'd imagine this is like in 2018, and performed a bunch of cognitive tests that measure cognitive capacity from pro video gamers to average humans to analyze whether playing video games has had any positive correlation. Now, if it wasn't already obvious to you, especially if you're subscribed to me and watch my videos, on why this experiment is one of the dumbest shit I've seen since the 24 presidential election, I'll let Dr. Dakkych explain his thoughts first.
Results showed that pro league player performed better in more complex tasks. In terms of results compared to average population, pro league player was in 98th percentile, which is nuts. This is a proof that playing League can improve your cognitive processing. I'm gonna give this one 9 points on evidenceometer. Those cognitive tests are no joke, and people that were in the video are professionals at what they are doing, so this is really trustworthy stuff. Pretty cool.
Okay. Really trustworthy stuff. Pretty cool indeed. Imagine someone recruited Anthony Edwards to run some physical tests against the average person to test if playing basketball has had any sort of impact on physical capacity. Do you think he'd perform better than 98% of the population? Imagine someone recruited Jason Love to plow through your girlfriend for an hour straight. Do you think he'd perform better than 98% of the population? Do you see the fucking problem with the whole pretense of this video? This experiment is not indicative of the average League of Legends player. 61% of League of Legends players are anywhere from bronze 4 to gold 1. Acadian, who is a challenger League of Legends player, is in the top 0.019% of the player base. Actually, since there's a difference between low challenger and high challenger, and that he's one of the 50 pro players in a server of 1 million players at the time of this recording. He's actually in the top 0.00005% of the player base. My friends, do you not see the problem? I've already discussed this in my talent series, but the fact that he's a pro player makes him not indicative of the average League of Legends player, and hence this whole experiment is a moronic waste of everyone's fucking time. Being a pro, like I said, is 0.00005% in NA back then. Probably even less now because there's less teams and more regions coming in, right? You can't take professional athletes across any dimension and test them in the domain that they're talented in. That's why they're professional fucking athletes. Talent is a major part of it. Of course he's going to be better at cognitive processes than the average human, you fucking idiot. That's like saying Victor Wembanyama can touch the rim easier than the average human being. He's fucking 7'6". If they wanted to test the average League of Legends player, they should have picked someone from Silver 4, which is the division that most players are in, and that has been playing League for a year, to see if being exposed to the stimulant has changed their brains in any appreciable way. Another interesting study would have been examining Acadian in other physical endeavors to see if gaming has deteriorated his physical capacity in relation to the average human being. And even then, he'd still be better than usual because Acadian isn't really indicative of the people you'd expect to be professional video gamers. So there you guys have it. That's the fucking video. To be fair with Dakkych, I actually like the guy and think his sense of humor is actually funny. And I've had his videos recommended to me before and they look wholesome and all that. I just don't like when I see half-baked ideas like this get like 52,000 views in a single fucking day. And people see this and go, see, I can keep playing League and keep wasting my time, like grinding my ass away doing nothing. It's the sort of justification I see for taking steroids on YouTube Fitness from time to time. It sort of gives you permission to waste away your years. Games are fun. League is fun. Addictively so. That's the problem. Whether it's upholding its worthwhile traits or tearing down its addictive traits, people that consume League content will have to learn to exercise some sort of critical thinking in order to see if what they're hearing actually makes fucking sense. I know it's hard because as a gamer, you want to believe gaming isn't bad for you, and videos like this will feed into your confirmation bias, but it's just not true, guys. I wasted so much time chasing the ephemeral nature of glory within this game. I could have had fucking 70% of the fun and fulfillment that I've had over the past 12 years of playing League without 70% of the time invested. Stop being brain-dead consumers and open your fucking eyes, you want, you fucking 120 IQ orangutans. I'll leave his video in the description below. It has all the links to his other citations if you want to check it out. If you want to help easing your own video gaming addiction, just join my Discord and hit me up. Do the usual YouTube shit, like and subscribe. In case you guys missed it, I'll put up my talent series so you can refresh yourself on why you aren't in the top 2% of the player base, as well as other addiction traps of League of Legends. I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember, although it might seem hard, it's actually quite easy to develop healthy relationship with video games. Follow me and I'll show you how.